Have you ever followed a bookbinding tutorial and heard words such as signature, text block, endpaper or hinge without being completely sure what they meant? Bookbinding has a lot of terminology and some words can even change slightly depending on the structure of the book. Today, I'll show you the main parts on the outside and inside of a book and explain the terms you are most likely to encounter as a beginner. Hi, I'm Joanna. Welcome back to my missredfox paper art channel. It's all about bookbinding and paper crafts for beginners here. Think of this video as a reference you can return to whenever you come across an unfamiliar bookbinding term. Most of the books I have made on this channel so far have been pamphlets, Coptic bindings, Japanese step-bound books, and glued notepads. I will use those as examples, but I also have a commercially made hardcover book, so I can show you the parts of the traditional case-bound cover. Bookbinding terminology is not always used in exactly the same way by every bookbinder. I will mention some alternative terms, but I will also tell you which words I normally use in my own tutorials. So let's begin with the outside of a book. Front and back covers. The front cover is the first outer side of the book, and the back cover is the last. The covers may be flexible cardstock as in a pamphlet notebook, or rigid boards as in a Coptic or a hardcover book. Cover boards. The stiff pieces inside a hardcover cover are called boards or cover boards. A Coptic book normally has separate front and back boards, while a traditional case-bound hardcover often also contains a narrow spine board. The case. The case is the complete outer hardcover of a case-bound book. It is made separately from the book block and then attached to it in a process called casing in. You saw me make this structure only one on this channel, so I'm showing it here using a commercial made hardcover book. Softcover. A softcover uses flexible card or paper or cardstock rather than rigid cover boards. The cover may be attached directly to the spine or included as part of the sewing. The spine. The spine is the bound edge where the pages or signatures are connected. It can be exposed as in the Coptic binding, covered as in a traditional hardcover, or formed by sewing through a stack of individual sheets like in the Japanese step binding. The spine board. In many case-bound hardcovers, a narrow piece of board forms the outer spine of the case. Not every hardcover uses one, and pamphlet, Japanese, and Coptic bindings normally do not have this kind of spine board. Hinge, hinge gap, and joint. The flexible area beside the spine that allows the cover to open is called the hinge. When making a hardcover case, a narrow space is left between the spine board and each cover board. This space is more precisely called the hinge gap. You may also hear the word joint, especially for the visible line on the outside of a hardcover. I normally use the word hinge in my tutorials, sometimes quite generally, because it is a term that feels most natural to me. Head, tail, and fore edge. The top edge of a book is the head. The bottom is the tail. In the outer edge, opposite the spine, is the fore edge. These terms are often used when measuring hold positions, trimming pages, or describing damage or decoration. Covering material. Book cloth, paper, fabric, leather, or other material wrapped around boards is called covering material. You can have one material like here, only paper or fabric or book cloth. Here's even wallpaper. Or you can have two materials like here, paper and book cloth. Book cloth. Book cloth, or sometimes book linen, is fabric prepared to use on book covers, usually with a paper backing. The backing helps stop glue soaking through and makes the fabric easier to cut and attach. But you can make book cloth from fabric too. I have a video on how to make book cloth from fabric and I will link it in the description below. Turn-ins. Turn-ins are parts of the covering material folded over the board edges and glued to the inside. You can see them very well here. This is a notebook of me that I covered in wallpaper when I was in 3rd grade. And these are the turn-ins. Very visible. You can also see turns in here. Underneath this endpaper end sheet. Here, and here, and here. The material is normally trimmed at the corners first, which I did not do here. Here I just folded them over and glued them, so the layers do not become too bulky at the corners. The square. The square is the small overhang of the cover beyond the book block, usually at the head, the tail, and the fore edge. It protects the page edges and is often around 3 mm, although it can be larger, like here, smaller, or completely absent depending on the structure. For this book, I almost don't have a head and tail square or overhang, only here at the fore edge a bit. Portrait, landscape, and square format. A book taller than it is wide is portrait format. A book wider than it is tall is landscape format, while a book with equal height and width is square. Some books you could use in both ways. This one is landscape format like this, but if you would hold it like here, and you would write or draw in it, it would be in portrait format. Trim size. The trim size is the final size of the pages or book block after cutting. Even when a handmade book is not trimmed after sewing, the term is still useful for describing its intended finished dimensions. Let's talk about the inner structure of the book. Sheet, leaf, page, folio, and signature. A sheet is one physical piece of paper. Once it's part of a book, it may be called a leaf, and each side of that leaf is one page. So one leaf gives you 2 pages. A folio is usually one sheet folded once in half. So that folded sheet creates 2 leaves and therefore 4 pages. A signature is a group of folded sheets nested inside one another. You may also hear the term section or gathering, especially in traditional bookbinding. But not every book is made from signatures. Japanese step bindings and many notepads and perfect bound books often use individual leaves or sheets, like here. While Coptic, pamphlet, and many hardcover structures use folded sections. A spine fold. A spine fold is the central fold of a folio or signature. In pamphlet and Coptic binding, the sewing holes are normally punched directly through this fold. Book block or text block. The complete group of pages or signatures inside a book, it is called the book block or the text block. It does not include the outer covers. So this is the book block here. Here as well. In a Coptic bound book, the book block is sewn directly to the covers, but in a traditional case bound book, it is made first and then attached to the separate case. Creep or paper creep. Creep happens when several folded sheets are nested inside one another and the inner sheets project farther at the fore edge. You can see this here and also here. The more sheets in one signature and the thicker the paper, the more noticeable the difference becomes. You can decide to leave it like this. You can also make decal edges and then creep is not so important. Or you can trim your text block or let it trim in the paper shop to have a perfect cut and no creep. The swell. The swell is the extra thickness that develops at the spine because of the folds, the sewing thread, and sometimes additional spine materials. Too much swell can make the spine much thicker than the foredge and affects how the book closes or looks. Endpapers, endsheets, pastdowns and flyleaves. The papers at the beginning and end of a book are commonly called endpapers. More precisely, a traditional endpaper is usually a folded sheet, while endsheet is a broader term that can also include a single sheet, such as the paper attached inside a Coptic cover or here inside of my Japanese step-bound book. In my own tutorials, I normally say endpaper or endpapers for both kinds. This is not always the most technically precise term, but it's widely understood and keeps the instructions simpler. When part of the endpaper is glued to the inside of a cover, like here or here, that attached part is called the pastedown. The free part remains able to turn like a normal leaf and is called the flyleaf. Inside an open book, the gutter. The gutter is the inner area where two facing pages meet near the spine. Some bindings open very flat, like the Coptic one, while glued or step-bound books may have a tighter gutter that hides part of the inner margin. The spread. Two facing pages viewed together are called a spread. An image or design that continues across both pages is often described as a full spread. Recto and verso. The recto is the front side of a leaf and the verso is its back side. In a book read from left to right, recto pages are normally on the right side and verso pages on the left. Inner and outer margins. The inner margin is the space beside the gutter and the outer margin is the space near the foredge. The inner margin often needs to be wider in books that do not open flat like here, so text or images do not disappear into the gutter. Details at the spine. Headband and tailband. The small decorative band at the top of the spine is called the headband and the one at the bottom is called the tailband. Many people use the word headband for both. Traditional versions could be sewn and structural, while many modern versions are decorative strips glued to the spine. Bookmark ribbons. A bookmark ribbon is a narrow ribbon attached at the spine and left long enough to lie between the pages. It is common in commercial hardcovers but completely optional in handmade books. I like to add bookmark ribbons for my travel journals, but I add them at the head and not at the spine. You certainly do not need to use the most technical word every time you talk about a notebook. Bookbinders also do not always use every term in exactly the same way. I normally say hinge for the flexible part of a cover, and I usually say endpapers even when endsheets might be the most precise term. The important thing is to understand which part of the book someone means and what that part does. I hope knowing these terms make it easier to understand tutorials and gives you a little more confidence when you plan and make your own books. Thank you so much for watching and let me know in the comments if you have any questions. Feel free to like and subscribe if you like this tutorial and stay tuned for more bookbinding videos. Happy crafting!